Kirby's Return to Dream Land Deluxe is an excellent remake, but while I quite enjoy the base game, we all know that the sub-games are where it's at. And this time around, oh baby were they given special treatment. Remember that guy Magalor from Super Kirby Clash? Well, now he's gone and built a whole theme park filled with sub-games for us to play. Gee, what a nice guy. It's not like he's going to betray us and try to take over the universe or anything like that. We've got some returning sub-games, as well as a few new ones, and every single one of them is a blast to play. So that's why today, I'll be ranking the top 10 Kirby's Return to Dream Land Deluxe sub-games. This list is based on how fun each sub-game is, how replayable they are, and anything else that makes them stand out. And before I begin, make sure to subscribe so that you can see more videos like this one in the future. Or don't. That works too. Anyways, hop on your launch stars and let's get to the countdown. Number 10. Samurai Kirby. Where Kirby learned the way of the samurai? I don't know. But this subgame just isn't that great compared to the rest. It's your typical draw style minigame, where you'll wait for the prompt to appear, and whoever clicks a button fast enough wins. And that's it. You either win and move on to the next round, or you lose and have to start back at the beginning. Rinse and repeat. Now there's nothing inherently wrong about this, but the fact that the only thing you do is click one button makes the subgame kind of boring. I mean, it's sort of cool that you face off against different characters each round, and I like that Kirby carries a different weapon each time, but that just isn't enough for me. And it doesn't help that I find this game to be way too easy. Even on the hardest difficulty, I still find myself taking out my opponents easily, which ruins any sort of replayability. I remember one time when I was playing this game at like 2 in the morning, and I was still able to beat it without being fully awake. That should tell you everything you need to know. Maybe I just don't have the patience for this type of game, but either way, I just don't think this one's for me. Number 9. Ninja Dojo. This subgame originates from the original Kirby's Return to Dreamland, which is actually pretty neat. But aside from that, the novelty of this one wears off pretty quickly. The point of the game is to throw your ninja star at a moving target, with the goal being to score a bullseye. If you miss a target, you have to start over, and your score is based on how accurate your throws are. There's a lot of different ways the targets can move, and there's a handful of obstacles that can get in your way as well. It's all pretty varied for what it is, but I honestly think it gets kind of boring after a while. I mean, when you get down to it, you're only really clicking one button. Sure, there's some fun in trying to get a perfect score each time, but after a few rounds, this game just seems to drag on. It's just so slow going, and it gets repetitive very quickly, especially once you remember which ways the targets move. But I mean, hey, at least there's motion controls. That's gotta be worth something, right? I don't know, man. This subgame's fun and all, but I usually get tired of it pretty quickly. Number 8. Egg Catcher. Oh man, am I a fan of Kirby's Adventure. So seeing a subgame from that game return always brings joy to my heart. This game's arguably really simple, but I honestly like what it has going for it. Robo-Dedede is throwing eggs at you, and it's your job to catch as many eggs as you can by opening and closing Kirby's mouth. However, Robo-Dedede can also throw bombs, and if you eat one of those, it's game over. There's 30 eggs in total, and your score is based on how many eggs you catch by the end. It's a pretty basic concept, but its high-speed nature makes it very enjoyable. The eggs fly so fast that there's a lot of skill involved in trying to catch them all. Even though it doesn't really matter whether you miss an egg or not, whenever it happens, it makes you want to try again and go for a better score. It's that addicting. The only thing I don't like about it is just how short it is. On the hardest difficulty, this subgame only lasts for about 10 seconds. I know I just complained about how long the last game was, but this is seriously way too short for me. It'd be nice if on the higher difficulties, there were more eggs to catch, so that way it could pad out the game a tiny bit more. But either way, this subgame's still a ton of fun, and one I definitely recommend checking out. Number 7. Crackity Hack. At first glance, I could have sworn this was Megaton Punch from Kirby Superstar, but after looking into it, I discovered that it's actually a completely different subgame from Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. Why HAL Laboratories decided to make 2 subgames that are nearly identical? I'll never know. But it's okay, because this subgame is still really enjoyable. The goal is to create the furthest crack through Planet Popstar. You'll do so by participating in several timing-based challenges, such as clicking the A button when your meter fills up. You'll do this several times in a row, before having to line up 2 targets in order to deliver your final blow. This part can be a bit tricky to pull off, but if you time it right, kapow! Kirby punches the ground and you just earned yourself a big fat W. Actually, you first have to watch everybody's crack to see whose goes on the longest. And if you play well enough, you might just get to haze an innocent Waddle Dee. Poor little guy. And yeah, that's pretty much the whole game. It's short and sweet and not much else. But just because it's short doesn't mean it doesn't offer you a good time. Don't get me wrong, there's definitely better subgames out there, but what's here is more than enough to make me happy. Except for that stupid mission where you have to win 3 times in a row on level 3 difficulty. Number 6. Magalor's Tome Trackers. What's a tome, you might ask? Well, apparently the internet doesn't know, since Spellcheck seems to hate this word with a passion. Anyways, the premise of this game is that Professor Magalor will show you a book he's looking for, and you have to be the first one to find it. There's a different amount of books lying around depending on the difficulty, but only one of them's got what he's looking for. So in order to win, you've got to keep your mind sharp and your eyes open. Might also be a good idea to breathe. Sometimes the book Magalor's looking for will be facing the wrong way, or be temporarily obscured, which adds some extra suspense to the game. But honestly, this whole concept gets boring pretty fast, since it's incredibly easy to get to the right book in time. Also, the computers are idiots. Luckily, the second half of this game fares a bit better. Magalor will announce that it's the last chance, and even more books will spawn in than before. Now there's several books that you have to look out for at a time, meaning you can score serious points if you manage to steal 2 at a time. However, it's also incredibly easy to get lost in the shuffle, so you really have to pay attention until the very end. I vastly prefer the second half of this game compared to the first, as it's much more action-packed. In fact, I think I almost would have preferred it if the entire game was like this instead of just half. But alas, what's here is still a really good time. Number 5. Kirby on the Draw. Kirby? With a gun? Oh look, Waddle Dee. This subgame is your basic move the cursor, shoot the target motion control extravaganza. Kirby and friends don some western attire and have to shoot down a multitude of different targets featuring various Kirby enemies. Some of the targets move faster than others, and some of them are also worth more points. You also have to occasionally reload your gun, which is more of an annoyance than anything. And everything else is exactly how it seems. Look for the target, move your cursor to that target, bang. It's that simple. But just because it's simple doesn't mean it isn't a solid subgame. I really do like this one, and think that the brand new tilt controls fit in perfectly. It's repetitive, yes, but I don't really get too tired of it after playing for long periods of time, and that's an important thing to have in a game like this. Now, I wouldn't say it's a masterpiece or anything, but hey, it's here, it's fun, and that's what matters most. Also, Kirby with a gun, how did this happen? How could they do this? Why? How could they do this to my boy, my son? I mean, he's not my son, that would be weird, but why? Why would they, why? Number 4. Smash Ride. No, it's not a subgame based on Super Smash Bros. It's actually a game where you attack other players and have to knock them off the stage in order to win. Okay, so maybe it is Smash Bros. In this game, everybody's riding on top of launch stars, and you score points by launching your opponents into the depths below. The catch is that you're only allowed to move in one direction at a time. You have to charge up your attack before you're allowed to move, so you have to carefully aim where you want to go so that you end up hitting the most people possible. It sounds complicated, but it's really not. Once you get used to how the launch star controls, this game's a blast! Plus, sometimes extra characters from Kirby Squeak Squad will spawn in, and you can earn bonus points for knocking them off. How exquisite! The only other thing I have to add is that this place looks like Final Destination, further cementing the whole Smash Bros thing. But that's besides the point. This subgame is a bit simple in nature, but is much more creative than most people give it credit for. Number 3. Bomb Rally. Hey everybody, I've got a great idea for a game. Let's toss these bombs back and forth using frying pans. And if anybody drops one, you all get blown to tiny bits, yeah! This subgame doesn't make a whole lot of sense in practice, but honestly, it still makes for a really good time. Basically, you'll take turns smacking a bomb around in a circle, and if anybody misses a rally, they're out of the game. There's actually a little bit of strategy involved, since you can choose which direction you want to smack the bomb in. This creates a lot of suspense, as you're never truly safe, since anyone can send the bomb your way at a moment's notice. You can also do what the game calls a smash hit, where you smack the bomb back at the last second, which causes it to travel much faster through the air. This move is especially hard to pull off consistently, but it can also be a really devastating blow to your opponents. For how simple this subgame is, you wouldn't expect it to be anything more than just okay. But this is yet another example of a basic concept turned into something much greater. Number 2. Booming Blasters. Well, I never thought they'd turn Kirby into a top-down shooter, but they did, so I guess that deserves some claps. This subgame is by far the most in-depth one we've seen yet. There's actually quite a lot to this one, so let's get to it.
3, 2, 1, go!
Each character has 4 lives, and they have to keep at least one of their lives until the end, while also trying to make other players lose their lives. You do this by firing one of 2 shots out of your blaster. One of them is a standard forward shot, while the other one is a lob shot that can hit multiple opponents. You're also able to upgrade your blaster multiple times to increase the strength of your blasts, which isn't all that important, but it's here and that's cool. You also have limited ammo, which means you have to refill your blaster by grabbing these capsules that periodically appear throughout each level. Speaking of levels, there's 3 different levels to pick from, and they each have different layouts that either make it easier or harder to hit other players. But there's also variations of each level that mix up the elements that appear on each particular stage, so actually there's more like 6 levels, but whatever. Occasionally this incredibly powerful blaster called the Super Blaster will spawn in, which is the equivalent of a final smash since it practically KOs anyone who touches it. And on top of that, sometimes Kabila from Kirby's Dream Land will appear and basically nuke the entire map until there's no one left standing. Oh, and did I mention this game's got
2 hours later.
Look, all I'm saying is that this subgame is Number 1. Checkerboard Chase. Ah! Oh, please, don't hurt me, please, no, I have a son named Kirby, no, please, don't hurt me, no! Jeez, talk about a scary title. Anyways, this subgame is definitely the best one out of the bunch, and it's not hard to see why. The way this game works is that all 4 characters are walking around on a cluster of checkered blocks. You have the ability to make all of the blocks in front of you fall down, and if anyone is standing on any one of those blocks, they lose one of their 5 lives. Luckily, the blocks do spawn back in after a while, so that way the game lasts longer than 10 seconds. After a certain amount of time, the arena will begin shrinking in size, making it harder to avoid your enemy's attacks. And whoever's the last surviving puffball is declared the winner. And that's pretty much the gist of it. It doesn't take too much effort to understand, but it's still a lot of fun regardless. Being able to run around and team up on other players adds a weird sense of excitement that none of the other sub-games have. It's just so exhilarating from start to finish that I honestly can't think of a single thing wrong with it. Plus, there's even an extra high speed mode that lets everyone move around even faster. In fact, I honestly think this makes the game even better, since it increases the pacing tenfold. This is the only subgame from this collection that I never really get tired of. I could seriously marathon this game for hours at a time, and I'd probably still have a great time. And for that reason alone, that's why it's my favorite subgame from Kirby's Return to Dream Land Deluxe. Even though I did kind of dog on some of these sub-games, I still do really like all of them. They're all really creative in their own ways, and you should definitely give them all a try if you get the chance. But before you do that, be sure to like and subscribe for more Kirby related content in the future. And thanks again for watching, and until next time, goodbye.